Hello, we are the Cardboard Cooks, and this is Cooking with Cardboard. I'm Martin.
And I'm Ben.
You can find us on Twitter at cardboard_cooks or golem_mtg.
And you can find us over on YouTube at Cardboard Cooks.
And I'm going to stop.
This week, we're going to be talking about some unique building restriction ideas to try and spice up our commander decks and lead to a more fun play experience overall, whether that's, reducing the power level or another fun idea that we have in this list here. So we'll jump right into it. Our first category here is tribal. And when we bring up the topic of tribal, a lot of people tend to discuss tribal, which I'm personally not a super big fan of because it can get a little bit of the same where you're playing a few of the same creature types and then playing a lot of creatures that are all creature types, which is kind of like cheating. But for some reason that's still in the rules of Magic, so we won't go into that. But the essential the essential part of playing a tribal deck is to pick a fun legendary creature, and then you determine which words in that creature card's text that you like and kind of build around that and add anywhere between 35 to 50 cards that share that theme. So the obvious one is the creature type itself. So you'll run around and see a lot of, wizard tribal, zombie tribal. Do you have any tribal decks that are like that you like to play with, or any unique ones that you've seen in the wild, Martin, that come to mind when it comes to that kind of tribal?
So I have to respectfully disagree about tribal not being amazing.
That's fair.
I love it. And it's a really fun deck to build because there really are so many ways you can build it, because there are so many great tribes in Magic. So you can pick and choose which lords you want to do, and you can be everything from like a aggro deck to a slow, more controlling combo deck, whatever. Like Ur-Dragon's really popular because it really reduces all the cost of all of your creatures, which is great. But I agree with you that for our conversation today, tribal is not really what we mean when we say deck restrictions. And really, neither is elves or zombies.
Yeah.
Vampires. These are very well-known tribes that have a lot of support, and cookie cutter lists come up where only a few cards, flex slots, really get changed from one list to another. So that's not what we mean either. We mean things like maybe krakens, or another one is like squirrels. Toski is, of course, the best squirrel that exists, so you could use that as your commander, or you could use the Chitterfang.
Or Mr. Chatterfang, yeah.
It's a good one. But my favorites are really the really obscure ones. Like, I know you have a Rhino Vehicles deck, and that is just so much flavor, and it's lower power level.
100%, yeah.
But has really explosive fun turns.
Yeah, it's again, like you said, it's really fun to kind of pick an obscure tribe that, like you said, doesn't just auto-populate a deck list when you're typing it into Scryfall, where it's like, oh, these are 50 insanely powerful elves that have a lot of synergy together. Like, not to hate. I know there's a lot of hate out there for elves and goblins because those do kind of auto-populate, but you can, if you try. It takes a little more effort. You can make a fun tribe for them, but it's a little more challenging. But yes, like you said, I have a deck for Rhino Vehicles that I really enjoy, and that's another good thing to bring up is kind of the double theme aspect of things, where you can, when a tribe is not super well supported in the colors you want to build, you can cherry pick and kind of take, anywhere from 1 to 3 unique features of a card and say, okay, well, it's a very easy intro for me. It's hey, this is my Rhino Vehicles. 3 words, and people generally understand, oh, that's probably not going to be a very strong deck. Like, but anything from art or creature types or any kind of spitball-y, hey, this is my, like you said, Kraken decks, and it also has a hat sub-theme. Like,
right.
It's really fun, but it also puts a really tight building restriction on it that will typically lead to more fun games because it is lower power. where you're going to have
Right.
points of interaction, or and that's not saying that's another good point. You can kind of bring up interaction still. I still have some pretty powerful removal or interaction spells that are in the deck. So that's another piece of it. And the other one we had under the tribal was word soup. So this is another kind of tree that you can pick from when it comes to the tribal aspect of things, where you can say, do I want to have a lot of vigilance, lifelink, death touch, reast, what is that? I'm making up words now. Reach, haste, or flying. And you can kind of just say, hey, those abilities are really good, but they're not overpowered in a way where if you stack a lot of them, it's not like an effect that's going to take over the game or always give you the arch enemy. So it's really fun to build around those. Is there a particular word in the word soup category that you see a lot, Martin, or respect a lot when you see it at a Magic table?
There's two that come to mind.
Yeah?
Infect
Oh, no.
and Death Touch.
Yeah?
Those two, like if you have an all Infect deck, that's not really reaching out and doing anything super creative, but an all Infect deck is very popular, and it's a competitive casual deck.
Yeah.
And also the Death Touch commander, which I think also then gives Infect tokens, right? Infect the.
I believe so.
and-
Finn the Fangbear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the most popular commanders, but what we're talking about today is not, I'm going to sit down and make a deck and show up at an F&M with it. This is me talking with my play group and saying, let's next week do wonky tribal. Now,
All
you can
the
either say
jank.
you can do a deck where every creature has the keyword lifelink or whatever your keyword is, barring infect probably.
Yeah.
Or you could say everybody can have a certain tribe, and you just have to pick a tribe, and everybody else can vote whether or not it's okay or not. That way, everybody can say no. You say elves, we say no, right? That way, everybody has an input on that. So
Oh, that's fair.
that's what I really like, is to sit down with your group and find some kind of restriction for everyone, which I know is a popular thing for some streamers like the MTG Goldfish crew.
Oh, yeah.
Does it often, like they also will do, okay, next week we're going to do our favorite movie, and we're going to try and make the theme of our deck fit a movie, which
That would be really
either the
fun, huh?
art or the name or the flavor or something fits with your movie. So you could imagine doing something like Goodfellas and having a lot of New Capenna cards in there, right?
Yeah, that would be really cool. I did run into a deck last week that was not last week, it was a couple of weeks back, but it was a Halloween themed deck, and that was really cool. It was with the Ghost Ship commander. I don't know what the guy's name is, but
Skeleton Ship?
the Skeleton Ship. Yeah.
That's from
It was
Ice Age.
It was really cool though. It was a really well built, like skeleton spooky theme. It was fun. It was really fun to play against.
And that's a great one. So, like, right now, if you were trying to find something to do over the holiday break, you could let's do Christmas themed. Right?
Yeah, I know that the Command Zone did a Christmas one a way back that was really cool, where they all like built around a different part of the holidays that they really enjoyed.
Yeah, it's a really good one. The next restriction that we're talking about is going to be budget. Everybody knows budget. Budget is such a great way to have everybody on kind of an even playing field. You can set a budget of whatever you like, and then everybody has to build a deck to sit down and play together of the same power level.
Yeah.
Financial value level.
Financial power level.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not always true where the price of a card is indicative of how strong it is. There's lots of really good cards in Magic that don't cost a lot, like an island. An island is one of the strongest cards in Magic because it lets you
It's a
play
good one.
spells. But, not really a lot to say about budget, but you could do, $50, you could do $100, you could even do something like $20 where you're not counting the value of the lands.
Like super budget, yeah.
Yeah, and if you play on Modo, Magic Online, you can also do something that's called Penny Dreadful, where
Ooh, what's
I
that?
believe every card has to be worth 2 cents or less.
Oh, wow.
Because a lot of cards are worth basically next to nothing on Modo. So you can get a whole deck for the free subscriptions. You can sign up to these subscription services on Magic Online, and you don't have to pay any money, and they'll give you like $20 that you can get off their bots and borrow at any point in time for free. If you want to have more, they get kind of expensive kind of fast. So if you want a competitive modern deck, it might cost you over $100 a month in renting to be able to play competitive modern. But for casual EDH, you could let's do a Penny Dreadful. Nobody has to pay any money. We just log into our Magic account, hang out, have fun. And there's some really high-powered cards in there that are worth $30 in paper. But just the way the Magic Online economy is, it's just a very different thing. And I find that one in particular, Penny Dreadful, to be a really fun building exercise. So something to keep in mind.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun because you also get like you said, you still get to flex those like deck building skills in an arena of cards that, I typically won't play with like 3-cent cards, but if you did Penny Dreadful, you get to see some of those cards that you're not really dealing with, which is super exciting because it's like seeing brand new cards for the first time.
Right. Piggybacking off of budget would be rarity level, right?
Yeah.
There's commons, uncommons, rares, mythics. You could really pick any of those or some mixture thereof to build the deck. You could say all mythics, which sounds like it's going to be super powerful, but a lot of your vegetables, like your removal and your ramp and things, are common, uncommon. So you're
You
gonna
need
have
your
a hard time.
veggies.
Yeah, you have a hard time building like a really functional deck. It'll have some big haymakers. It'll definitely be like Battlecruiser Magic, but it's not going to be tuned or streamlined. The one I don't recommend is Pauper and Commander.
Why don't you recommend Pauper and Commander there, Martin?
Make a guess.
I would say because you are going to struggle to find a legendary creature at common.
Right. That would be a problem. But let's just say you do uncommon for Commander, common all in the deck. Can you think about why that wouldn't be a good idea?
Maybe. I can't. Why? I've only ever played against one Pauper Commander deck ever.
Win conditions.
Oh, because the games would take forever.
Yes. So there's no good haymaker win conditions at common. There's also not a lot of board wipes. You have some efficient removal like Lightning Bolt or not Go for the Throat, Doomblade, things like that you can use as spot removal, but there's no board wipes really at common that are practical. So you end up having a lot of problems of things that make the game close or keep things going in a way. Everybody I've talked to that's actually tried a whole Pauper table have complained about how miserable it is. So
A 3-hour game.
Yeah, I recommend commons and uncommons. There's lots of great uncommons out there that serve the role of your value cards, your removal. There's some like sweeper effects, like Savage Twister was printed at uncommon. So there's just a lot more options, and I think that's a really good one. And in particular, I really like using Pauper and another one of those on this list. Do you know what I mean? So you could say, I want to do Pauper Trial.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's not called Pauper when it's commons, uncommons. It's called
Super Pauper? I don't know. We can name it right now.
Peasant? Yeah, it's called
Oh,
Peasant.
that's a weird name. Peasant.
Yeah, like peasants. Poor
Well, I guess. Yeah.
Force of Will was printed at uncommon. So it doesn't mean it's going to be cheap to say that it's commons and uncommons, right? So you could still have very, very expensive cards. But it's another restriction. You could always also say, oh, these cards are going to be on a banned list for our table for this building thing, right? Like you say, no Force of Will, guys, right? So something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I think another really cool thing about if you're playing with the different rarities is you can kind of go back in your bulk bin and play with cards that you've never played with, which is always super fun too.
Yeah, I just like seeing new cards. One of the problems with them making Commander decks with the intent of them being played in Commander is a lot of cards start becoming homogenized. So everybody's playing the Teferi Protection, everybody's playing the Smothering Tide. You get all these cards that are in every deck that you end up seeing a lot less cards each game. It's still very diverse, but it is the kind of problem with modern Commander game design, in my opinion.
The other kind of crazy way you could go about it with a very well choreographed playgroup is to build decks that are all from one set. So maybe one person plays from Kaldheim, person plays from New Capenna, so on and so forth. You kind of have the flavor from each set that is represented at the table on one person's board, and it really leads to some really fun synergies at one playmat versus another, and it also has really fun art that is really shines when you put it all on one playmat. Do you think that's a good idea for an organized play group, Martin? How would you feel about that?
I would love it. So the last couple years has been the case, especially, and I'm sure it'll be this way going forward, where they design 2 or more commander decks with a single set. And then if you look at it, they have a bunch of great cards in it, but if you actually think about it, there's always 5-10 cards from the main set that could go into it. Think the 5-color deck from Dominaria. You've got Joda, right?
Oh, Painbow, yeah.
Yeah, so you could bring Joda into that deck. You have lots of options that way. But I also am a big fan of not just one set, but one plane. So you could say I'm going to do Ravnica.
Oh,
or
yeah.
I'm going to do Innistrad. Some planes have more sets than others, so they may be a little too powerful. But you could always do a set draft. So what I mean is we all sit down and we shuffle up the names of some number of sets. Say if you have 4 people, you could do 12 sets. And so you shuffle it up, and then the first person opens, like, say, a 4-card pack and picks the card that they want and then passes. So it'd be like a normal draft, but instead of drafting cards, you're drafting sets. So you could do like a 4, 4, 4, 4, so 16, where each person gets to open one pack first, and that way everybody has an opportunity to be first pick, and everybody will be last pick on one, but everybody picks one set, and then at the end you have 4 sets that you can pull cards from.
Yeah, that sounds like a really,
sense?
really fun night. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus,
so,
I mean, you could do that relatively cheap if you pick the cheaper sets as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could always do budget restriction if you really wanted to, but I would think that would just kind of, you don't want to limit yourself too much to the point where it's not fun. It's kind of like the proper idea, right? Like, you don't want it to be too restrictive where you end up not enjoying the gameplay.
A fine line there to kind of ride, yeah.
Yeah. So I really like that one. The other way you could do that is you could do a randomizer on, like, Scryfall to pull up a card, and then you could build around that card. Is it another fun thing you can do? That's common with a lot of the content producers out there, but just wanted to mention it.
No, that's a great. We'll shout out Quest for the Jank Lord. I know they do that, and it's really cool when they get assigned those commanders at random because you get ones that are just terrible.
Yeah. It's always fun to have the challenge. It's always too bad if one of them gets like a really actually good commander. Versus everybody else getting a bunch of garbage.
Bunch of jank, yeah. All right, so next up we've got a fun little idea of making a monocolor deck, or 2-color if you're really struggling, that does something not traditionally associated with that color. So we're just going to kind of dive right into the colors and talk about what they traditionally do and some fun ideas of a direction you could point that color that would be a lot of fun and potentially a commander that could lead that fun charge. So first up, we have the color of red. So traditionally, red is associated with a lot of burn decks. Some common tribes were the goblins and dragons in red. You have impulsive draw, discard, treasure themes, all of them super powerful, have super powerful commanders. So a more non-traditional strategy for red that you could possibly dive into would be group hug, or even if you're feeling super crazy, would be a life gain strategy. So 2 commanders that we've thought of here to lead this red fun charge would be Squee the Immortal. So Squee the Immortal is a 1 colorless and 2 red pips, legendary goblin creature, 2/1, and he has, you may cast Squee the Immortal from your graveyard or from exile. So he's kind of more of a flavor include at the command zone, or yeah, more of a flavor in the command zone because he really isn't going to help you with that group hug or life gain strategy, but it is going to be very apparent to your play group or table that the deck is in a reduced power level. The
Right.
other possible commander here would be the Red Terror. It is a new legendary creature from the Warhammer set. So when we're thinking about this one, I was more along the lines for the life gain in red, which you don't see a lot.
Right.
He's 3 colorless and 1 red pip, legendary Tyrannid or Tyrannid. Not sure. Don't play Warhammer. But he's a 4/3, and he has Advanced Species. Whenever a red source you control deals damage to one or more permanents and/or players, put a +1/+1 counter on the Red Terror. So he would hopefully be able to give him lifelink or some more of your creature's lifelink, or build around that in a way that is a little reduced power but might be a lot of fun. Have you seen a lot of red group hug or life gain decks out there, Martin, in the wild?
I have not. I think red's a hard one. There's a lot
Yeah.
of different things. It's like red and green are two that I think are the hardest two colors to do this kind of idea with.
100%.
Because red does so many different things. I do like the idea of the life gain deck because there's a lot of great payoffs in life gain that are colorless, so you can kind of work those in. And I do like that kind of idea of a life gain in the Red Terror deck. But
Yeah.
even more so, I was actually working on a list for Auntie Blight?
Yes, the little devil.
The Little Devil, right? So
Yeah.
what my deck was with her is I had a bunch of ways in the deck to consistently find Gorgon's, not Gorgon's flail.
Gorgon's head.
Yeah, I think it's Gorgon's head, where it gives lifelink and death touch.
Yeah.
And then I had duplicate ways of giving her lifelink, so that whenever I'm doing Earthquake everybody for 10, she goes up to a 12/12. I take 10. She attacks. I gain 12 back. So, but it's still kind of doing the same thing that red decks do, which is why it's kind of hard. But one of the ones I would like is like Aristocrats.
Oh, yeah.
But even then, it's like Perforos kind of is like that, right?
You have to be careful. Yeah, Perforos is really strong.
Yeah, so I mean you got to kind of think about what it doesn't do, which is why red's so hard. I think like blue is a really good example when it's easier, where you do like blue Stompy, right? Where you you just do all the fat idiots, or you could do like Illusions Tribal or something, right? You could do different kinds of aggro, go over the top tribal. But I kind of skipped ahead there. Do you have any other ideas for red on like a restriction that they don't normally do?
No, I mean, I really like the life gain. I don't know. I also like, I know it is kind of like discard is really heavily in red, but anything to play around with the graveyard in red is also a lot of fun. But that can be a little powerful too.
Yeah, the artifact strategy is pretty mainstream for them. They do red's really, really good at recursive graveyard artifact stuff. So, well, what about blue? Blue's normally like birds and wizards, like tribal for those. Control, draw card tribal. You've got lots of. Why am I forgetting? Oh, you have lots of artifacts. Hold on, let me just do this better. So what about blue? We've got birds and wizards tribal. You got draw card tribal and control. Expels, artifacts. These are all kind of like common themes that you see in blue.
100%.
But I know one of the combinations I've been seeing that I like is blue-white reanimator.
Ooh.
It's starting to be a thing because there's a lot of good reanimation spells in white. You have the original reanimation was Animate Dead and Resurrection. So both white and black had uncommons in alpha that brought something back from the graveyard. So it was as white as it was black in the original sets. And then as time went on, they did more and more black reanimation, and white would just get the occasional little nugget, like a Resurrection reprint. Often it's more expensive in white too, which also helps you keep it on a lower power level.
That's fair.
Invoke Justice was recently done also. And then the blue helps you loot the stuff into the graveyard. So something I thought about that's a good, uncommon strategy, although it's becoming more mainstream because of like Shorekai.
Yeah, he is a very popular commander nowadays. I know another blue one I think would be a lot of fun to build with some lower power level playgroup would be more of a blue enchantment deck, because you don't typically see that. And a good pilot for this we had was, I don't know if I'm saying his first name right, Calafi or Calafi, maybe? He is beloved by the sea, though. He's a legendary enchantment creature demigod. He's a star 3. His star is his power, and it's equal to the devotion to blue that you have. And he also has creatures and enchantments you control have spells your opponents cast that target this permanent cost 1 more to cast. So, sitting in the command zone, he's not super intimidating, but you get to play some really fun blue enchantments that don't usually see the table, but a lot of people will steer away from enchantment decks because they do take a lot of game actions and can durdle, but maybe in blue it would be a fun, way to see some cards you don't usually see.
But it's kind of cool in this case because a lot of enchantment decks don't really have a lot of teeth in them. A lot of the enchantments keep them alive and keep them drawing cards, but a lot of them don't really close the game.
Yes.
But this one, the commander itself, is a game closer, right? This thing is
Get him big enough?
huge, yeah.
Unblockable?
Yeah, give it unblockable. Stompy, blue Stompy. I do like blue Stompy. I like that.
Yeah.
There's another thing that they've been printing a little more support for lately in blue, which is blue overrun effects.
Oh,
so
okay.
You could do like mono blue tokens, just trying to create a bunch of tokens, go wide, and then win with like an overrun style effect. Some of those are artifact-based overruns, but I've also been seeing ones where you can make all of your creatures XXs.
Okay.
Right? So one of them was blue-green, but I know there was others too, where you change the size of the creature. It could be a fun way to go with blue.
Definitely not a direction you see every day.
Yeah, definitely not. In green, doesn't green just do everything?
Yeah, they're kind of associated with a lot of the more powerful strategies in a game of Commander because they have such strong ramp spells. So it kind of gives you flexibility where you're easily taken into, okay, well, I'm going to ramp and I'm going to play big stompy creatures and hit you in the face. But also they have like the most powerful tribe out there in elves. They have a lot of different like creatures that have a lot of support in Magic, so it's easy to make a creature-based strategy deck as well as landfall back to ramp where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna play lands, I'm gonna get more lands, and then capitalize on that and that value. But a really fun direction that I think you could go in green that I don't think I've ever seen is Spell Slinger in green. And I think it's going to be a challenge. But one of the commanders we picked out for this was Dosin the Falling Leaf. He is a colorless and 2 green pips for a legendary human monk. He's a 2/2, and he has players can play spells only during their own turns. So it's kind of like a Grand Abolisher almost effect in your command zone so that you can naturally ramp up a little bit, and when you play those big Spell Slinger effects, you don't have to worry about the blue player at the table. So it's kind of a cool twist on that. The problem is going to be there's not a great amount of green instants and sorceries that see a lot of play because they're typically not great, but it would be kind of a fun to say that to your play group and say, hey, I'm going to try this mono green Spell Slinger, we'll see where it goes. And it definitely would be a lower power of a strategy.
But there's a lot of like it could almost have like a token sub theme. There's a lot of green
absolutely
tokens and that could be the way to win the game.
Yeah, like more of a heroic, where you're targeting your creatures, or like a general overrun. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there is one commander that I think of this, but it's green-red.
Okay, we'll allow it. We'll allow it.
Known more for spells. Blue-red Spell Slinger is like one of the main ones. But Blanca, Ferocious Friend, which was a Street Fighter commander.
Okay.
For red, green, and 3 colorless, you get a 5/5 Human Beast Warrior, legendary creature. It has haste, and it has rolling attack. Blanca, Ferocious Friend has trample as long as you cast 3 or more spells this turn.
Oh.
So he gets trample for casting spells, and whenever Blanca becomes the target of a spell, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn and deals 2 damage to each opponent.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you're wanting to cast spells that probably target Blanca, and the nice thing is you could run lots of protection spells, like Tamio's Safekeeping and cards of that
Oh,
ilk.
yeah.
So that you have lots of spells you can cast, cantrips, of course, but then also some ones that protect that are still on strategy. And this guy, yeah, I could imagine you kind of storm off. And have heard of people building red-green storm, right? So this could be good. I like this strategy. It's definitely less common. The red, it's got a lot of support for it, but I think you could play a lot of the green cards. Like even Giant Growth targeting Blanca is probably pretty good.
Yeah, and it's a cool theme. I think the flexibility too. If you build Blanca, maybe you just talk to your player and say, "Hey, this is a Blanca deck, but I'm trying to steer more in the green direction." Right? You're cherry picking 2 themes, putting them together. You got a beautiful, janky deck with some cool building restrictions.
Yeah, mono green though, I do like the idea of an artifact deck.
Ooh, okay.
So there was a recent commander, it was green and 2 colorless, I think for a 3/3. And it said you can tap artifact tokens for a green mana.
Like Urza. Oh no.
It is like Urza, but it doesn't have the card advantage built in, so it's only
Okay.
and it's only tokens. So like you can't suddenly now tap your
Your Wishing Well, yeah, anything
Ravager
like
or
that.
something.
Yeah.
But I mean, we can't cover all of the different iterations of weird off-color kinds of strategies. You could really just pick any popular strategy and say, well, what colors are not known for that, and just do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
find a way to make it work. Luckily, artifacts and stuff can kind of fill in for some of those pieces that make it functional that maybe the color doesn't actually have access to, like the life link in red, life gain.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Colorless spells are still spells. Treat them as such.
Next up is my absolute favorite color, black.
Surprise, surprise.
Yes, most of my decks have black in them.
Have a degree of black, yeah.
Yeah. So it's known for like sack decks, aristocrats. It's got like the demon theme, reanimation. It's got some angels, vampires also. It's got death touch, infect. There's a lot of different things for it, but there's one in particular that I really like. Is to run braids enchantments.
Ooh,
So
yes.
once again, enchantments and black are not really known to be a thing. I mean, there's that one Sultai commander, the Toad. It's got black in it, but it's definitely not the black cards that make that deck work. It's the green
Like
cards.
Tatsunari, the Toad Rider, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he makes Kami. I know he makes Kami, but I don't know what his name is.
Yeah, he's a good one. But yeah, so I think that would be a really fun deck where you're playing lots of enchantments that ETB do an effect, or they do an effect when they go to the graveyard, so that you want to sack these things to draw cards and drain everybody out. Just play like as pillow forty as you can by playing enchantments that punish people who attack you. Like I know there's a few of them that do damage to players attacking you, or even drains them in some cases. So it would be a fun kind of way to build the enchantment deck in a different way. How about you?
Yeah.
What ideas do you have for black?
Black's a hard one. Yeah, it does a lot of things really well, especially when you throw in tutors if you're playing at that power level, because it has some of the best tutors in the game. But one direction that I thought would be interesting, it would definitely be a lower power level, but that's landfall, and I think landfall decks in black would be definitely a challenge and on the more fun side. But 2 of the possible leads there would be Gonti, Lord of Luxury, which is again more of like along the lines of Sui in red, where he's sitting there to kind of show that you're you're playing a fun commander for a lower power level. But Gonti, I'll read him. He's a legendary Aetherborn rogue. He's a 2/3 for 2 colorless and 2 black pips. He has Death Touch, and when he ETBs, you'll look at the top 4 cards of an opponent's library, and you basically get to play that for free. Oh, you don't get to play it for free. I'm sorry. You get to play it as, and you can spend mana as though it would mana of any color, as long as it remains exiled, which is like not super powerful. It doesn't help with the landfall deck specifically, but if you're landfall strategy specifically, but if you're playing in a pod that has green, you're targeting the green player to get some of those ramp spells, and they have Cabal coffers. You have a lot of really cool lands in black that are powerful just by themselves, but again, not a really common strategy. There's not a bunch of support out there for it, but it could be a lot of fun.
You could also do, bringing it back to braids, you could do braids, land tutors, and you could use the tutors to make sure you're getting your Crucible of Worlds, which is colorless, so you can replay your lands, you get value that way. Definitely some cool ideas. You can even incorporate some, you could do it like land destruction, which of course I don't agree to, but like there are some black land destruction spells like Sinkhole. Find ways to cast them again or get them back from the graveyard. Could be some definitely interesting ways to build a black deck.
Yeah, I forgot to read the other commander that we were suggesting here. It's one that makes a lot more sense if you're leaning into the landfall strategy because it has landfall. It is Ob-Nixilis the Fallen. He costs 3 colorless and 2 black pips. He's a legendary demon 3/3, and he has landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may have target player lose 3 life. If you do, put 3 +1/+1 counters on him. So it's going to help you by having a landfall effect in the command zone you can lean towards in case you don't draw your others, and then you go from there. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward. It's not too overly powerful, and you could try to find some landfall effects in black. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, that does sound like a good idea. I do like Ob-Nixilis quite a bit. I had picked him up for my Sultai land deck. I think I ended up cutting him, but I have been trying to power it down, so I might actually end up sliding him back in.
Definitely on the lower power of things, but
I mean, he's way more powerful in like a deck that has lots of ways to play multiple lands a turn.
That is true. Yeah.
So in 1 land a turn, even from your graveyard, it's not a lot of velocity, right?
Yeah, that is very, very true.
So last but not least is white.
Yeah.
So
White
known for
white weenies, right? We've gotten so much support in white recently, but that is definitely one of the more recurring themes is having all these small creatures that you play and get incremental advantage off of, whether it's card draw or another like life gain is huge in white. You have all the angels. You have really, really good enchantments. They do a lot of things really well, especially lately they've been printing a lot of great card draw spells that weren't present previously for white and mono white. But a direction that we could go here that you don't see a lot is white big spells or white burn decks, which is gonna be a challenge. One of the commanders that we had pulled up for this one was Mangara of Corindor. Or Corindor? I don't know. But he is a legendary human wizard. He's a 1/1 for 1 colorless and 2 white pips. He has tap, exile Mangara of Corindor, and target permanent. So basically this is just a removal spell sitting in your command zone for that protection of, okay, it's gonna take me a while to cast these spells, so I'm gonna try and have some sort of fort so that I can politic my way in saying, hey, don't attack me or I'll exile your strongest permanent on the battlefield. But I don't know, what do you think for white? What direction would you think is something that we can build in it that is not seen a lot, Martin?
So this is actually probably on my top 5 decks I want to build right now. I've been toying with an idea.
Yeah?
I want to play mono white ramp. And what
I like the finger quotes. That makes me nervous though. What do you mean by mono white ramp?
So a lot of the white ramp cards require you to have less lands than your opponents.
The catch-up ramp, yeah.
Catch-up ramp, right? Well, there's a lot of lands and things in this game that allow you to have less lands than your opponents while still developing your mana base. And the reason why I want it to be 5 colors because I want to have access to all of the bounce lands.
Oh, okay.
Right? So the 2 probably all-stars is going to be Lotus Vale and Lotus Field, I think. Is that what it's called? It's
The hexproof one that, yeah.
The hexproof and then the original. They are both the same, where they require you to sack 2 lands
Sack.
when it comes into play,
Yeah.
and they both tap for 3, right? So
Gotcha.
They're both, decent. I mean, hopefully nobody's playing LD, land destruction, but the idea is one of those allows you then, assumedly, even if you played first, to be 2 lands behind your opponents.
Yeah, so it turns on your strategies, yeah.
Right. I mean, there's a colorless Karoo land that picks up a land, and then there's a actual Karoo, which is one of the first ones, is the white one. It lets you play a land, pick up a land to your hand, and it taps for 2 mana, a white and a colorless. But I really didn't think that the 4 or 5 of those that exist would be enough to build the whole deck around it. So I was thinking about running all of the white bounce lands, but you need to have the other colors: white, blue, white, green, white, red.
Yeah.
So to get those colors, I want to cheat and play the recent dragon that was printed. It's 1 white and 3 colorless for a 3/3 dragon with flying. It's got flash, and another permanent is indestructible as long as it's in play. So it can save another permanent, right? And flashes in.
Okay.
And it has a mana dump where you can pay chromatic 5 lands, 5 mana chromatic, right? 1 of each color, and it gets +5/+5. And so my goal in the deck would be to kill people with a flying giant idiot, right? But I'd also probably do a lot of like other ramp payoff cards. Like I would imagine White Sun Zenith would be good. White, white, white X for put X cats into play, 2/2s. Shuffle it back in your deck. It's the white version of the Green Sun Zenith cycle. Not as good as Green Sun Zenith, but I think in this deck it could be good. What do you think about that?
I think that'd be really cool. I really like the idea of taking a 5-color or any kind of multicolor and playing it, especially if it has those hybrid pips or the like activated abilities is giving its color identity, and driving that into a specific color. Because that you're putting up those guardrails and saying, okay, well, I don't want to make it too powerful, so I'm going to put up this dividing line to make it so it's not so strong. And it makes it so that you have to flex those deck building muscles and say, I'm going to make sure that I stay in my lane of, like, for you it might be mono white, and try and roll with it. I think it's a lot of fun. If I had somebody in my play group say that, I'd be like, game on, let's do that.
Right? Yeah, so I think it would be a fun deck to build, and I think it would be really maximizes the use of the white ramp cards that exist, and even if no one's playing green at the table. So, the only non-white card in the whole deck would be the lands that produce other colors, just because there's not a way around that. And then the commander is there just because it doesn't have any other colors at its casting cost. Right? That's why it's like, I picked that one, but it's got the activated ability. So I think it's a good idea. And I do plan on building it someday.
Well, I'm excited to see that deck list, Martin. One day.
Yeah, maybe I'll throw it together. I've done a lot of work for the anti-blight.
Oh yeah,
she's my next.
She's
deck.
up next. Okay.
Yeah. I haven't sat down to actually. I'm probably gonna wait till after Christmas to actually order the cards. I just spent so much money on Magic. Between the 30th anniversary and I ordered a bunch of the Double Masters cards that I wanted for my collection, like Dockside, Mana Drain, Mana Vault. While they're low, I wanted to make sure I got them before they start creeping back up. So I picked up a lot of those too.
It's the best way to do it. Well, I think we've covered a lot of really cool strategies for kind of guiding your deck building in a unique way. Is there certain kind of formats that you might suggest in Commander that we could play alternatively with our Commander decks that might lead to some fun deck building exercises or just fun gameplay overall, Martin?
Yeah, so obviously the deck building restrictions and everything is one way to do it. but another way is to change the way the game is played, right? So normally you've got 4 players, free for all for their own. One way a lot of people have already heard about is Two-Headed Giant, where 2 players are on a team versus the other 2 players. They've got a group life total, and then you can play against each other. Now, this is a way you could play Commander with just the Commander decks you already have. Or you could specifically build decks that are designed for this format, which is, I think, where it gets really fun, right? Like,
Yeah.
we build a deck that complements each other, which, you know, the sum of the parts is greater than the whole kind of idea, right? Which I think is a really, really cool idea. So a format that I really like that is easy and most people know about is Two-Headed Giant. It's a format where 2 players are on a team versus the other 2 players with shared life pool. And it's something you could just pick up, play with your regular Commander decks, you and your buddy, and against 2 other friends. But I really like the idea of actually building around it so that you actually sit down and say, okay, we're going to design our deck to be the sum of the parts will be greater than the whole. So some really unique ways to build. It could open up some strategies that normally aren't as good, but now with 2 players, it makes it better. Have you ever played Two-Headed Giant?
I have, and it was a lot of fun. I have not gotten the opportunity to build a deck specifically to play with another deck, but that idea really excites me. I know Two-Headed Giant, if you take, like, on your, Friday night play group and just play 2v2, it is a lot of fun because you have a lot of conversations that you don't usually have. But like you're saying, if you build those decks, there are some cards that like will call out your team or opponent's team, as well as you can take advantage of those cards that are the voting cards or the, hey, every opponent can do this, and kind of steer your direction towards that because you know your teammate's going to do the option that helps you the most, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, so one of the ones that I like, in addition to the voting, are the assist cards.
Like, I'm not familiar. What do those do?
So assist allows the casting player to have another player use their resources to help cast a spell.
Oh, it's pretty self-explanatory. Yeah. Okay. They assist you.
5 mana. I pay 2. Doug pays 3. Together we cast a spell. Right.
Gotta love Doug.
Gotta love Doug. Yeah. Do it, Doug. But yeah. So, not reinventing the wheel here. I do think Two-Headed Giant's known about, but I do encourage people to try to play it as a format that you're actually building your deck for. Have like one deck that you. Or maybe you're the one that shows up with 2 decks, and you say, look, I've got a Two-Headed Giant set of decks. Let's go find somebody like Two-Headed Giant with.
Yeah. Or even, like you said, try it. A lot of Commander players that I've brought that up with in playgroups, especially if it's just pickup games, they're very hesitant to try it. But it is a lot of fun, and it's really self-explanatory. It's a very easy way to play.
Yeah, and if you want a fun way to dip your toes into it without really creating a whole deck or anything, they do Two-Headed Giant sealed for like a lot of pre-releases where you build a deck with a friend.
Yep.
Which is of course its own thing, and I love limited, so it's always something that I like doing if I have someone there with me that wants to do that. So there's a couple more. We're not going to get too far into them, but there's Emperor, which is a really cool format. I recommend you Google it. It's where you have 6 players, which is a lot of players, so you may not be able to
That is a lot of people.
Yeah. But the way it works is really cool. You have 2 emperors that sit across from each other, and on each side they have a knight. So let's say you are one emperor, Ben, and you're going to have a knight to your right and to your left. I'm the other emperor. I've got a knight on each side. And the way it works is you cannot attack. So when an emperor dies, that side loses the game.
Okay.
Right? And then if you are going to attack another player, you have to only attack the one you're sitting directly next to. So each knight can attack each other, but cannot attack across the table.
They can't go cross table. Got it.
Right. Also, spot removal or board wipes only affect the people up to 2 spaces away. So at the beginning of the game, the emperors cannot do anything to impact each other.
So it's circular when you're saying 2 spaces. That's interesting.
Yeah, circular.
Okay.
And then the other cool thing is you can actually share resources. So if I have a creature, I can tap it, and then you gain control of it. So the Emperor could put
Oh.
creatures into play and transfer them to their knights to help the front line, so to speak.
That's really cool. It's like a little mini game of chess inside of Magic.
It's a super cool way to play, and it sounds like, we no way, 6-pod takes forever to play, right? But in this case, it actually isn't as long because it's so linear, like who you can attack, what you can do. You don't end up in these weird things where nobody wants to attack because somebody else is going to attack them. In this case, it's almost plays like a 1-to-1 match.
Yeah, like your decisions are very restricted with the attacking and spot removal. I like that they added that to just not leave it up, almost like to not have it as a 6-player game, because that would take too long. But that's cool. It sounds like a really fun way to play.
Yeah, it's if you have a group, a lot of times we think, oh, if we get a pod of 4, then we're good. But sometimes you have like 6 people who want to play some Commander.
Yeah.
Try it out.
Yeah.
Try it with the decks you got. You might find it's a lot more fun than you think.
Give it a shot.
The last two were that I wanted to mention are 2 ways that Wizards have released products for, and so some people are familiar with these. But it's Arc Enemy and Plane Chase, and you can, Plane Chase you have to have a planar deck, so it's, something other than a normal deck you have to have. But you flip the planes over as you play through the game, and it has a global effect on the game to affect everybody. There's a little bit of randomness to it, but that's a fun way you can change things up. And then, of course, Arc Enemy is where one player is, Nicol Bolas or whatever, and everybody's from the very beginning is trying to kill that player.
Yeah.
And the base level, so you can set up the rules, but you can also modify the rules, like depending on how powerful the Arc Enemy's deck is. You can make it where maybe Arc Enemy has a lot more life, or maybe they have they draw an extra card each turn, or something to kind of like offset the disadvantage. Because, if you all are just sitting there with your normal decks, you could say, well, my deck's a little more powerful than y'all's, but not really an Arc Enemy level.
Yeah, I will say the Arc Enemy is a really good format to understand how to play yourself. Not only with your play group, but it's a good one to take to your locals as well. Because if you have a group where maybe your store doesn't have a lot of players and you're stuck within your pod and you don't really feel like it's the games around you are in a good spot where you can rotate pods, you can kind of bring that up as an idea if the only deck somebody has is a little too strong, like maybe it's flirting with that CEDH level. You can bring that up as an idea, even just as a political way to play the game, which is a lot of fun. Like that way, the guy who's playing maybe the 9 or 10 is still able to play that deck in a respectful way, and the other decks are more inclined to keep up because they know they have 2 other players helping them out, and it's a good utility to have on your utility belt as a Commander player to understand how to play that.
I think so. I think it's the creativity here that's important.
Yep.
Because not everybody has a lot of time to play Commander, and somebody has their favorite deck that they've spent so much time and energy and money building. Henzi.
Oh,
And
I heard that Hinsey call out, Martin. You're not hiding anything from me.
I had to get it in there at least once. But if, I really want to play that, but nobody else has, like maybe everybody else has precons, I could be like, hey, look, how about this? How about I'm Arc Enemy, but I can play 2 lands a turn.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
everything
and that's
else is the same.
be flexible, be open, try it. You like he said, like Martin just said, two lands a turn. Maybe he starts at 20. Maybe he starts at 10. Like, be flexible, be open, have fun.
Yeah,
That's the important thing.
I do think that with different power levels in casual EDH, you can do a lot of flexibility there. I do think it's kind of hard to say have a Arc Enemy playing an actual CDH deck against regular Commander decks.
Yeah.
Just them doing more things doesn't really solve the problem of they don't have the right kind of interaction to deal with that player.
100%. Yeah.
But still possible. Worth trying out, maybe.
100%. Yeah. Well, I think we've done a great job covering some unique deck building and playstyle derivatives that we have in the Commander format that we have in our utility belts that hopefully we've done a good job explaining to the community here. Martin, with that covered, what do we have for Finance Corner this week?
Oh, it has been actually kind of a busy week. So last week we did talk about the Secret Lair, December Super Drop, along with the Transformers. But
The Scarab God!
The Scarab God, my favorite DJ. We talked a little bit about the ones that were spoiled at that point, but all of them hadn't been out yet. And our prediction was correct. There are a lot more that are
Yes.
actually out there. And I just wanted to take a quick moment to kind of mention a couple of tidbits from that.
Absolutely.
First off, this is the best Secret Lair set I've seen in a while. There's
Really?
a lot of slam dunks. I should buy this because it's just value. Right on its face, it's value. We talked about the just add milk with the Ulamog,
Yes.
and the other one was what was it? Oh, the Transformers, the
Blight Steel.
Colossus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those two are just like slam dunks. I think your net is the net cost of those cards are way less expensive than to buy them on the secondary market. So I kind of feel like those are no-brainers for anybody who doesn't have that don't have those cards and expect they want to play with them at some point.
Yeah.
But if you want the free Scarab God, what are you going to do? Buy like 4 of each or 3 of each or whatever? That's not going to work. So the other ones that I like and I'm going to be picking up just to get to that $200 number to get that Scarab God
The threshold. Yeah.
threshold, yeah. You could buy either of the bundles, the non-foil bundle or the foil bundle, and you'd have enough for at least one Scarab God. Close to the 2 Scarab Gods with the big foil because it does stack. Every $200 you get a DJ. So something to keep in mind.
Not a live DJ. You get the Scarab God DJ. I want to make sure that's clear so we don't get into trouble there.
Oh, yeah. From, Command Zone. Nope,
Yeah.
get him.
Nope.
He's gonna be
Not
yours.
happening. They will not ship you a human.
So for me, the ones that I'm going to be picking up are the Just Add Milk and the Transformers Optimus Prime versus Megatron, which are kind of obvious for me. The Art of Frank Frazetta also I think is a good pickup because the temporal manipulation I don't have. I love the art on all of these.
Yes.
And I expect the Midnight Reaper is going to be worth quite a bit because that art is so dope.
That Seize the Day. Don't sleep on that Seize the Day either. They
Oh,
all
yeah,
those,
the
that whole set, that Frank one. I really like that one as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so good. The Meaning of Life maybe is also decent. I think this one is kind of close on the border for me because these aren't cards I'm excited to put in decks, but there are cards in here that I don't have in my collection. So it
Okay.
gets me to the point of being able to get that Scarab God, but I'll probably get this one non-foil just so that I have a Mind Dilation in my arsenal.
Well, that way you can play it in the next month too, instead of waiting for those foils to stop curling.
Yeah, for sure. Then the guest artist, Kozinden, is one that we didn't talk about. It's just really
Okay.
good. It's got Sarah Ascendant.
Oh,
Really
snap.
awesome. Kind of like a Japanimation kind of art, which is pretty sweet, if that's the kind of thing. It's also got a couple other good cards in it. Most notably, I think, is the Rapid Hybridization. Which
Oh yeah,
is-
that's a really good card.
Super cool first premium art of it, and it's really nice looking. And then it's also got Demonic Consultation in there, which is this whole set is more competitive than it's more CDH. They're all 1-drops. You got Winds of Change, which sees play in CDH, Llanowar Elves, which sees play lots of
Everywhere.
ways.
Yeah.
Demonic Consultation, Sarah Ascendant, and Rapid Hybridization. The only one that's not really that CDH is Sarah Ascendant. But, I mean, a 1-mana 6/6 flying lifelink is very aggressive, so it's a good card to have. This is also nets you some value. It's worth more than the sum of its contents. And then the other one I'm really excited about that I'm going to pick up is the Wizards of the Street.
Ooh.
So, Wizards of the Street, I guess, is some kind of joke about it's Wizards of the Coast versus Wizards of the Street. I don't know.
It sounds like an album title. I'm not sure what that is. Wizards
Yeah.
of the Street.
But it's got some good ones in there. It's got Baral, Chief of Compliance, everybody's
Ugh.
favorite
Ugh.
commander, which it's got some cool art. This is also, I don't know how to describe this art, but maybe I'll have it up here.
Okay.
But Spellseeker is in this one, which is a blue and 2 colors for a 1/1 human wizard. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an instant or sorcery card mana value 2 or less, reveal it, and put it in your hand. I mean, this is basically copy 2 of Cyclonic Rift. So it sees a lot of play. Helps you
That,
find that Cyclonic
that is a
Rift.
CEDH staple. Yeah.
CEDH staple and, competitive casual. He's got Magus of the Wheel, which while that card's seen a lot of print runs and doesn't have high value, this card, it looks awesome. If I was going to play the copy, I'd play this one.
Nice.
And then Kest Dissident Mage. Not a big value on that one either, but it's cool art. Really, the Spell Seeker is going to eat up most of the value, but if you like any of the 3 other arts and you don't want the Spell Seeker, you can probably pick them up pretty cheap once these start getting into people's hands.
That's fair. Yeah, I know Kess is a really popular commander, so I'm sure that one will be high demand once it comes out.
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention all that. It's kind of like a real quick discussion on that. You could probably talk about it for an hour. But I also wanted to bring up, we have the spoilers for the next set, because there's another set.
It never stops.
The next set is Dominaria Remastered, and it's got a lot of sweet reprints. We're talking about Urza, Lord High Artificer, Yawgmoth, Fran Physician, Force of Will, No Mercy, Sneak Attack, Sylvan Library, Vampiric Tutor, Time Stretch, etc., etc. There's a lot of bulk rares in this too, so this is not a set I would recommend, buying a box of, because it's really a lottery ticket at that point, so you should definitely buy singles. But if you're the kind of person that likes to buy a case of something, this is a good one to buy a case of, because there's definitely some high value hits in here. And they're also going to have Old Border art in these, which is kind of weird because they just did Yawgmoth and Urza Lord High Artificer recently, so there's another Old Border version of those. But nice. The big thing I want to bring up here is there's some cards that are printed in this that are very expensive because of scarcity.
Huh.
So, No Mercies, black, 2 colorless enchantment. Like, this would be one of those enchantments in the Braids enchantment deck.
Yeah.
Whenever a creature deals combat damage to you... No, whenever a creature deals any kind of damage to you, destroy it. So, this is a strong card, but it's just mainly scarcity is why it's worth so much. It was originally printed in... in Urza's Legacy, and it's only had a Amonkhet Invocations reprint and a Judge promo.
Wow.
So it's $50, but this is not a $50 card. Back in 2012, it was $4.
Oh wow.
Right? It's just the fact that it hasn't been printed. So if you are one of those people that's sitting on a No Mercy or more, sell.
Time to dump.
Yeah, because this is going to go down. I mean, they printed it at Mythic, so it'll keep some of its value, but I would not be shocked if this drops down to $15 or $20.
Yeah, it's not like that card's played a lot where it's going to retain that value once it's reprinted. Like, I don't know.
It's a good card, but doesn't have the kind of demand. It's not a staple,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And then the other one I wanted to bring up is Gamble. Gamble's currently sitting at $20-something bucks. It's been printed a couple times, and each time it gets printed, it bottoms out to like $7 or $8. So if you're wanting to pick up one of these here, about 2 to 3 weeks after release, I'm guessing that the copy from this set will be worth about $7 or $8. So it's a good one to pick up. But keep an eye out for this set. I'll probably be talking about it more as it comes out and actually starts hitting the streets. But there's definitely some cards in here that if you want to look at, if it's a rare card that hasn't been printed in a while, and you have one in your collection and it's worth quite a bit, you might want to dump. Test of Endurance is another one that I would sell if I had a copy of myself.
That's fair.
Anything else?
I'm good.
Okay. How about you do the closeout this time?
Okay. All right, I think that's it for this week. Again, we are the Cardboard Cooks. My name is Ben.
And I'm Martin.
You can find us on Twitter at cardboard_cooks or on YouTube at Cardboard Cooks. And specifically message Martin on Twitter at golem_mtg with all of your great deck building ideas. Thanks again.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye.